Hey everybody, it's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at ya. And we're so glad that you're here. And we just pray that the Lord would just speak to you guys as we just share our journey with the Lord. That's basically where God has us. He has us in a place where we speak and testify to what God's doing in our hearts and lives. And we just pray that it blesses you in your own walk with the Lord. And that He would just speak to you guys through that. So, welcome to everyone.
Everybody needs encouragement.
Yes.
I don't care who you are, everybody needs encouragement.
Yes.
So
welcome. And today we're actually going to be doing Act 1, Scene 49.
Wow.
It's amazing. A lot of scenes in this Act 1.
A lot of numbers. Pregnancy process, birthing process, now we're in the labor process. Yeah. Restoration play is in there. A lot of overlapping time frames.
Yes. But before we begin, we, as always, want to give a huge thank you to everyone who continues to give to us.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to see how God just provides for us and continues to just carry us through on this journey. And it's just, we are truly blessed by each and every one of you.
Yeah.
So a huge thank you to all of you.
Yeah.
And we are support-based, so if you would like to give to us, you can. We have a PayPal link below, and you can just click it.
Click it.
But, so today, Act 1, Scene 49 of the Restoration Play. And in our last video, we had mentioned that...
so we've done 7 cycles of 7 scenes.
Yes.
Nice.
But in our last video, we mentioned how the Lord was speaking freedom last Sunday, and it was just the idea. I talked about William Wallace and him just saying freedom and all of that. And so that's kind of how the start of this week went. And then basically the rest of this week has really been, I think we can just sum it up, and going from the house of bondage to the house of love. And and so it's really, the Lord is speaking about bringing people out of bondage and bringing them into His house of love. And I really loved it because when we were first talking about, in one of our God times, just the house of bondage versus the house of love, I loved it because you had mentioned, you're like, we're talking about how Christ has set us free. And it was like, isn't it so awesome that God didn't just free us? You know, He could have just been like, okay, you're released from prison. Okay, just go. Yeah. But it was like, no, not only am I going to release you, but I'm actually going to bring you into my family. And that just really hit my heart because it's like, wow, like the Lord doesn't just release and it's like, okay, just go with like, you know, nothing. It's like He actually gives and replaces what He's freed you from. So it's like, okay, you're no longer in bondage, Israelites. Okay, I brought you out of Egypt. He didn't just say, okay, now you guys are on your own. I got you out, so now just go. It was, no, He's like, okay, I'm going to lead you, and I'm going to bring you to a land of promise. And it's a place where you can thrive, where you can just grow and just be blessed by me. Yeah. And so that's what the Lord does. He doesn't just... It's like He exchanges. He exchanges what isn't good for what is good. He's not just like removing and just leaving it like that. And so it was just really awesome to see because I was just, as I was just kind of going through our God time and just thinking about it, it was like going from the house of bondage. That is basically what the Lord did with the Israelites. He's like, you guys were in bondage in Egypt. You were slaves there. And then He's like, I'm going to break you out. And then He's like, okay, now I'm going to take you on a little journey through the wilderness. And of course, for the Israelites, it ended up being for 40 years. But that was because of really their hearts that were stubborn. And they just really didn't lose the...
It was supposed to be the honeymoon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It was, and it just it didn't come out that way. It ended up
being the prison moon.
Yeah, I don't know. It just their hearts were far from the Lord. They really were not His heart.
They just weren't interested.
And so,
I mean, if He was going to do more stuff for them, then we're interested in that. But Him as a person, they just weren't.
Yeah.
You know.
And so, but then eventually they ended up getting into their promised land. And so, I just really felt like there was just this, what the Lord has been doing for me personally this week in particular.
You know what? I could just leave if you want me to, because I don't think I'm going to have much to say on this one.
Oh, trust me. You'll have some stuff to say.
I'm just saying, like, it's just, man, it's been an amazing week for you. I'm just saying, like, it's been, sometimes we have those God times where the Lord is really on our daughter, or He's really on one of our sons, or something like that, in a good way, to bring stuff out and prophesy and declare and expose and convict and convince and all that stuff. But man, this whole week has been like your week. The Lord's like, freedom. Freedom. Come on, let's go in the octagon. Go.
Yeah.
Go fight some stuff. You're going to have a lot of contention this week. Wait, is this scene 43?
Yeah, I know.
What's going on here?
I'm confused.
And I'm just like, I'm holding her hand as she's squeezing it, trying to deliver some stuff out. So that's what I have to say. Bye guys, see ya.
You're hilarious.
That was my contribution.
Trust me, you'll have more. When do you not have something to contribute?
Well, true story. That's check and mate.
But one of the things, though, that we got as well at the beginning of this week was the scripture. It's John 8, 35 and 36. Yeah.
Here we go.
And I just wanted to read here, that. And
bless the Lord for deliverance and provision.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
It says, "Now a slave does not remain in a household permanently forever. The son of the house does remain forever. So if the Son, being Jesus, liberates you, makes you free men, then you are really and unquestionably free."
Well, and we've been listening to that song from Israel Houghton, Free Indeed, where he's just him and his people in the living room or something. That's been like our theme song this week.
Yeah, and then we've also had that other song, the one you played this morning. I forget her name.
Oh, Thank You for the Blood by Charity Gale.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's been just
both
of those. So it really
now you're gonna get me talking.
No, but it really just it's such a great picture. The Lord is speaking freedom, and freedom is coming through His blood. And just like He is making the way, just like with the Israelites. Yeah. They received their freedom and they put the blood over the doorposts and that brought about their release and deliverance. And
but anyway, the scripture, back to the scripture. I interrupted. Go.
And so I really like this part because he was talking about the difference between slaves and sons. And I was just reminded of how the Israelites, when they were in Egypt, they were slaves. Yep. And God was trying to take them from the mentality of being slaves into sonship. And into saying, like, you are sons of the house. You are going to remain. Like, this, I have inheritance for you. And just that picture of, like, God saying, like, you're no longer slaves, but you are sons, and so as sons we're heirs of the Lord, and we have an inheritance with Him. And so for me personally this week, I'm not kidding you, it feels like it's been a month in 1 week.
It really does.
It's crazy. We were going through just, we've been talking about this today, like, okay, so let's, kind of talk about this week video, what we're going to talk about. And I'm looking through and I'm like, oh my gosh, that feels like it was so long ago, because there's just been so much that the Lord has done for me personally in this last week. And it's just been like, wow.
It's been pretty epic.
It's been.
It's like, wow, dude.
It has been intense. Like Devin said, it was kind of like, okay, Lord, you're speaking freedom, and
it's like binge watching something on Netflix. And you know that feeling you get from like, wow, you feel like you're outside of time if you've ever binge watched. Well, imagine binge watching like every day for like 4 days.
Yeah.
And it's just like, whoa, you get so much. Mm-hmm. You forgot what the first couple episodes were about. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I forgot about that part, you know?
Yeah. And so it's just been this week where God has really been... The only way I could describe it is it's like there really has been just an unearthing or...
Girl, this is where you tell your story.
I know.
This is where you tell your story. See, I don't need to be here. I'm just directing the show. I'm a director today.
So basically, there's been moments where my heart has just been in contention. There's just so many small things that it's like the Lord has just brought up or brought forth, and it's like caused contention in my heart. And a lot of times I'm just like, I don't even understand why this thing is causing
why you feel what you feel.
Why am I feeling what I'm feeling? And
like to anyone else, this might not be even like, it might be skippable. It might be like no big deal. What's the problem? But for you, it's like Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah, and it's like, what is going on? And so there was a few of those like at the beginning of the week, but basically by Thursday it was just full like
lava flow
immersion and into just this time of great contention for me between me and the Lord and
me
and you, and just like what is going on here. And so really like, and it just kept going. It was like Friday, Saturday into Sunday morning, and then yesterday morning it was just like, it felt like the Lord was really starting to give me some like revelation, and he gave me this picture, and it was in this like time I was just talking with the Lord. Really, I was more like venting with the Lord. I don't know if anybody else
Same
does
thing.
that.
Same thing.
But it was just like, Lord, like this is what I'm thinking and feeling, and I don't really like what's going on. I feel like I can't hear you and all of this stuff. And so then
that reads like a psalm, doesn't it? But you, O Lord, are righteous. Yeah. Vindicate me.
Yeah. But then I started getting this picture, because the Lord was really just showing me, kind of where he's brought me to over the last basically 12 years, and kind of where I was at on yesterday. And so basically he gave me this picture where I am standing in this, if you can imagine, I don't know if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, but it's like the Shire, like the Hobbit Shire, where it's like green grass and like fields, and it's just
a lovely little paradise.
Very peaceful place. Yeah. And you just, hobbits, I'm very much, if I was in the Lord of the Rings, I would be a hobbit, like totally hands down. Like, it's like, yes, that's my heart. I'm like, let's just have food all day, and
folks, and fun,
and hang out. Like, this is awesome. I love it. And so basically the Lord was just kind of showing me, it's like, okay, I had this whole like village of my own, and it's like it had all the parts that I really liked, and it was just like, okay, this is awesome. And then basically a little over 12 years ago, there was a knock at my door, and in walks Gandalf. and
pointy hat and everything.
Yeah. And Gandalf's name is not Gandalf, it's Devin.
Oh my God.
And so in walks Devin, and
I'm only laughing because it's true.
And I was just like, I'm so excited, like, oh my gosh, you're in my life. This is so amazing. Yeah. Let me show you my village. Like this is so awesome. I think you're gonna love it here. It is gonna be so fun. And so I like almost immediately.
Those are flowers.
Yeah.
That's poison ivy. That's why you keep itching all the time. I'm just trying to let you know. Okay. And so the relationship began.
Yeah. So quite honestly, like from the beginning, it was so awesome when we met. But literally, even on our first date, it was like he had this question for me of just like, so, I have to know, like, what do you think about, the speaking in
the baptism of the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues and prophesying and charismania.
And for me, I was, I'm in my Hobbit land, and I'm just like, well, quite honestly, I didn't have like, oh, I'm against it, I'm for it.
You're like, what ring? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it was just more of like, well, it's just, I'm not sure. I don't really have an opinion. But immediately it was like things like that the Lord just for me started to work in my heart and was just like, okay, we're going to start changing some things. But then really...
Girl wanted me to go through a book called Systematic Theology. It was the size of a dictionary. And I was like, why are we going to go through this? I just thought this would be lovely. And we would just go through this line upon line, precept upon precept stuff.
Tea and crumpets and onesies and twosies.
For real. I'm like, systematic. What are you trying to... I got through the introduction. I was like, I almost went Medea. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no. With a little explicative at the beginning. I'm like, no, thank you. We're not going to go through this. Why are we going to go? What's the point of this again? Well, because you get to know the Lord. See, that's when I whip out my Gandalf wand and I just blew that thing up.
Yeah, actually, it looks more like a Thor hammer, but,
Even better.
No, so basically, in this picture that the Lord was giving me, he was just showing me how, like, it was basically, here I am in this, village that I had that all of it is, and it's specific to my heart and how I viewed God, how I viewed, life and all of that. And it was like, God knew, he's like, my heart is just like, Lord, I just want to know you. And so he's like, here, I'm going to bring Devin into your life. And you are going to get to know me, but in order to do that, I'm going to have to take something down and out.
You're going to go on a long journey.
And so for the last 12 years, I was telling them, I was like, my beautiful Shire now looks like a war zone that, everything, like it was just, burned to the ground. Things were exploded. Like, there is nothing left. And so yesterday, it was so funny because I could just see myself, like this, it was like a cartoon drawing, like there's this little me, like standing at the edge of this village and behind me. So the village is actually like behind me and it is just utterly destroyed and ruined and there is nothing left of it,
Ready for a new journey, looks like to me.
Yeah. And it was just like, and so if you can imagine, like, if the Lord was like the narrator of the story, he's like up here, and here I am, looking at the devastation, and then here's Devin over here, and he's just kind of himself, smiley, and just like, all right, you ready to go? and I'm just like, I know, like, it was like the Lord's like, hey, just go with him, follow him, and I'm sitting there going, Lord, do you see what he just did to my village? Like, it's totally destroyed. And you want me to go with him now? Like, what are you talking about? I don't like this. I don't agree with it.
I do not want to go.
I don't want to go. What are you talking about? But at the same time, it was just like, I could see, though, that the Lord is just like, I needed to do that. I needed to have someone in your life that would be willing to say what I wanted to say. And because it was like, I'm not kidding you, the Lord has really just blown up pretty much every single area of my life in how I am processing and thinking about things. And I don't think there's a single area that he has not touched. Which
is actually good.
Yeah.
Right? It's
and
like,
so, but
you want an area not touched by the Lord?
No.
So,
no, but
girl,
it was.
You blessed.
I am.
You don't know how blessed you are. Look at you. You don't even know what to say.
Yes.
You're so blessed.
But it was just like, so yesterday it was just like, my heart was just like, there was that contention within me of just like, Lord, what are you doing? Like, I don't like the fact that all of this got destroyed. I don't like it. But I also know that the Lord is like, he really was inviting me to just go forward. Mm-hmm. And it's like, go ahead and go forward. And I think for me especially, I was just like, okay, Lord, I'm telling you, I don't really like this, but I will go. I just want you to know. I don't agree. I don't like it, but I will go. And I will trust you in the process. But
it's like you've been going for 12 years.
I know. But see, this is the thing. Like, the Lord was really just showing me. He's like, you know why it's been so, there in those times where there's been explosions, there's been things happening, and why it's been so hard for me, you know, like all this time of just like, when those things pop up, I'd get very defensive. Mm-hmm. And it made me realize, like, well, yeah, I was trying to defend the place, my village is getting destroyed, and I'm trying to save it. And it basically...
And I'm the bad guy, because, you know, there's only one guy in the village with a hammer.
Yeah, so. He's the only one. It's pretty obvious. I don't allow people with hammers in my village, and...
You know, lightning never struck our village until you came here.
Yeah.
So.
No, but the Lord was
We never had fires.
Yeah.
Ever. And then you came.
And so, but the Lord was just showing me, he's like, it's really been him in the process.
Yeah.
You know, it has been his heart in just like bringing me out. And it's like, well, if the only one I could use in your life was your husband, then that's who I'm going to use to bring all of this out.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was just like, oh, wow. And, you know, and I even, in the continuing with just like seeing what the Lord was showing me, it was just like, I looked in front of me, and the ground, though, even in front of me, looked very like part of the debris. And then I'm just seeing like this forest. I'm like, Lord, I don't really know where you're taking me on this like journey, because I knew he was saying like, trust me, go with Devin in this journey. And for me, it's really a journey of, I guess in a lot of ways, discovering who God has really made me to be and who he says I am versus
what? Go ahead.
Versus just who I think that I am.
Or supposed to be.
And
well,
go ahead.
This touches on something the Lord spoke to you, I think, back in 2017, where he was talking about you're going to go on a journey of like discovery of the heart. Mm-hmm. And it's like you're going to get a new heart.
Yeah.
You know, and really that new heart is the person that he created. Mm-hmm. Not the one that's covered up with all this stuff. And then that person that's covered up with all this stuff, that you become like, you know, the survival Michelle, then that becomes your identity. And it's like, that's not really who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, it kind of touches on like fulfillment of prophecy. That's kind of been like a thing this week too, this past week with Scene 49, little side note about like little touches of like prophetic words coming to pass, like showing like, hey, I'm here. This prophetic word, that prophetic word. So it's like, you know, everything that you've been going through has been so essential to entering into the house of love, because the bond girl can't go into the house of love thinking that she's still a bond girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so yeah, it's funny because it's like, you know, it sounds great when you get something like, ooh, you're going to receive like a new heart and a new all of this. And it's like, oh, that's awesome. But
5 years later.
It's like
5 years from now.
But it's like that idea of just like, that's awesome. And then your world starts just exploding. And the Lord is just really, I mean, seriously, I think, the Lord has been working for the past 12 years, but I think in the past, 3.5 years, it has been or really
crazy.
Probably a little over 4 years, but it has just
during
been...
this Nashville, since 2017?
Since 2017,
oh, yeah.
And this coming forward, it's almost like, okay, now I'm just... And it's like, I can't save anything. And that's the whole point. The Lord's like, no, you can't save any of this, and I want to bring you out of it. Are you ready now to come with me out of this? And I really feel like the Lord has just been, and even this morning, there was just things that were coming out that the Lord's like, okay, let's look at this, and let's, there's still an unearthing, I guess, or just that breaking open of who God is, just no, this is who you are. You were talking about just kind of, in essence, where the idea being okay, you're Sarah, but then there's the bondwoman, and it's you are Sarah. That's who God has declared you to be, but you live as the bondwoman.
You live as a Hagar.
And the Lord's let's remove that and have Sarah come out. And so that's kind of the picture.
And I got this vision of the Holy Spirit, just the Spirit of God. He was just maybe it was Jesus, but I really felt like the Lord was saying it's the Spirit of God. He was just this white light being. You couldn't really make out any form, and but I just knew his arm was around you, and he was just going, we're going that way. You know what I mean? And it was it was almost a sense of everything else is going to have to look out. You're going to have to move aside because you're coming out.
Yeah.
Almost like a birth. It's the birth's coming, the head's out. You better step aside because everything else is getting ready to come out too. You know what I'm saying? Everything.
Well, and it's been interesting because for me personally over the last few weeks or so, and I think I mentioned it in one of our other videos, but it really has been feeling like a birthing process for me.
Oh, these contention moments.
All these contention moments. And it's just
contraction, release.
Yeah.
Contraction, release.
Yeah. And so, and we were talking earlier today too of just it's if something is coming up out of the ground, it's going to break all these things. And so it's the Lord is just continuing to just break everything off, and it's okay, let's have you come out. But then in that, the Lord is also inviting and saying hey, come on a new journey with me. And that's really where, for me personally, I'm just wow, Lord, it really is no different than the Israelites. It's you broke them out of where they were, and then you're let's go on a journey through the wilderness, and
let's go on a road trip.
Yeah. And no, really, I mean, for us personally, there's so much just picture, so many visions, and even just what God has put upon our hearts that really lines up with just what he's been speaking. It's I'm going to break you guys out of where you are. We have this, we had a vision where we were going around the track and as a car.
Oh, as a NASCAR.
Like a race
like
track.
A NASCAR, yeah.
And then
the NASCAR oval.
Yeah, we had continued to just go around, and it's all right, we're final lap or whatever, and it's okay, we've crossed this finish line, and you're still kind of going, but then all of a sudden there was just this stadium parted. But it led to a road that went through the wilderness. Yeah. And
that was not an encouraging part of the vision back then. We're what? Aren't we in the wilderness? Yeah. We're going to go into more wilderness?
No.
All right, we'll go.
Yeah. But we
don't want to keep circling the thing that God's saying to get out of there.
Yeah. But in pretty much every vision, there is just the idea of God breaking something open. There is a journey
by his power.
There is a journey, and then there is a coming home.
Yeah.
And so there's just this picture that God's I am going to break things open, and you're going to go on a journey, and then you're going to come home. And so it's that same idea of I'm going to break you free from bondage. I'm going to take you on a journey through the wilderness, and I'm going to bring you home. But I think, like for me personally, I think that there is a journey. The journey through the wilderness is going to be different than, for many of us, we've been in the wilderness this whole time. And it's like, Lord, I thought we've been in the wilderness. What are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? But I really just believe that this journey through the wilderness is very much like a honeymoon time.
That's crazy. I was just getting ready to say, I was like, I feel like this is going to be like a Song of Solomon type of just you and me alone together in this, which is what that was supposed to be for the nation of Israel, actually.
And so it's really...
You've already gone, the journey that you're afraid of, and you're like, oh, well, we don't want to go through that. Not just you, but, in general, when your heart's like, we've already gone through that. Mm-hmm. That's literally the journey we've gone through.
Mm-hmm. But it's like, now that it's you, like... the real you is like coming out, and I've broken you free from the bonds that the weight and the yoke that you had. Mm-hmm. It was like, now let's go on this journey, and let's go on this just adventure together, where it's like a renewing and just a time to really discover, and then it's like it actually prepares you to go into the house of love, into the place that God has for you. And so for us personally, it's reflected in, we really just believe when the Lord moves and opens the door for us, then we're going to be going on a journey. We're going to be taking a road trip.
A literal road trip.
An actual literal road trip.
It is going to be fun.
And then it will eventually lead us back home, and we believe that the Lord will have for us our home that we will literally go into.
Yep.
And
you're like, here's the keys, jing-a-ling-a-ling, here you go.
And I just, thank you. And I believe that whole time, that journey on the road trip, I don't know how long it's going to be or anything like that, but it's like...
It's going to be a while, we know that much.
But it's like, but during that time, though, it really is a time for us to draw close to the Lord. It's going to be a time where He is
renewing,
restoring, all
receiving
of
the wreaths.
Yeah,
that's been a thing.
and so really, it's all in preparation to go into the home, so that when you go into the home, it truly is a complete blessing and a complete just...
Well, and you're just saturated with the love of God. You're just fat on it with the goodness and the love and just the refreshing and the reviving and all that. It's not just this little moment you just had and now you're in your home. No, you're bathed in it. You're soaked in it. You've turned into a raisin. You've been in that stuff for so long.
Yeah. And so that's really just how the Lord, for me personally, has just been moving, and it has been just... It's been amazing, but it's been a hard week. Like, I'm just like, there's been so much just in my heart where it's just like the contention.
It's almost been like a grand exposure all over again.
Almost, not quite like that level. Like that was
extremely stormy. Yeah.
Massive level. But, it's just, I think the important part has just been to continue to go forward. I think for me, a lot of times, like, I will go forward, and like I was telling the Lord, I'm like, I don't like this. I'm not, but I'll do it, because ultimately I know that it is good.
Hey, people yawn.
A little yawn offering.
Yeah.
And
I need some water or something. I don't know.
But I just pray that this does encourage you guys. If you're going through something similar, just continue to allow the Lord to bring things out. Just allow Him to, just
don't let your feelings be your rudder of your ship.
No, and just keep pressing forward. And it can be really difficult in those times, but it's like, if the Lord is unearthing things, there's a reason for it. And, and he might very well be destroying your entire village, but He's like, I'm doing this because I want you to know the real me. I want you to really see me for who I am. And it's like, even in those moments, you might think, well, great, you're the God of destruction. Like, look at what you've done to everything. that I've had. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm actually the God of life.
No,
and
I don't want to praise you. Well, thank you.
And it's like, no, I am actually the God of life. I mean, look at what God did. And I think, think about that. He literally destroyed Egypt.
The whole nation.
He destroyed it.
Destroyed that village.
But he preserved his people.
Come on now.
And so even in the destruction of the village, he is preserving who he has made you to be, who you are. And he's like, I am caring for you. And I'm going to bring you out. And it's like, now come on this journey with me. But see him as like, wow, Lord, you have saved me. I think possibly, what the Israelites, what they saw was the destruction. And so they held on to that. They just saw God as like, oh, he destroys.
Yeah.
And we're afraid of him. And we're going to die. And all of these fears. And he really wants you to see him for who he is. And so, like, even for myself, it's like, let's go on this adventure together. Don't look at the destruction, but look that I've saved you and I have preserved your life. And I have actually
because I'm pleased with you.
Because I love you and I cherish you.
Yeah.
And you want to have relationship with me. Well, I want to have real relationship with you. And it couldn't happen in the Shire that you built. It just couldn't, because you wouldn't really see who I am. You would only see pieces of me, or they would be not true reflections of my heart. And so it's like the Lord is, so he's going to take us on this journey. He's going to take me on a journey forward.
Well, it's like you'll see me, but it's like if the Lord just shows up in your Shire, and it's like you'll see him through the lens of your Shire culture. And it's like you won't see him right.
Yeah.
And then when the Lord starts to do this, that, or the other thing, it'll be offensive to you. And it'll be kind of like the Pharisees. That's what the problem was. He showed up and he was offensive to them because he didn't fit their standard of who the Messiah is supposed to be. And so they were like, no, you're not him. Sorry. We're going to take you out as a service to God.
Yeah.
So...
And so really it can be a time like coming out of the place that's been destroyed. It's like it can actually be a time to journey with the Lord where it is just like,
I got nothing left.
Yeah. So I was like,
might as well.
All right. Might be a few pieces of debris that's like, around you, but it's
my little flower pot with my little yellow daisy in it. That's just gone too.
That too.
It's like we can't even make a Wall-E movie with that.
No.
We're done.
But it's like the Lord's like, all right, now that this is all gone, I can get you to come out and have you go forward with me and journey with me.
Find real treasures.
And it becomes just a time to really bond with the Lord. And to really see him and his love and his compassion and just tender heart. And so then once I think it's like when you see that and you go through the wilderness time with the Lord, but the wilderness being really like the honeymoon time, that intimate time with the Lord, and that's it's like then you can come into the promised land with just such awe and reverence and just a love and I think a tenderness that you won't have if you just go from the destroyed place and you get put right into the promised land, because you're missing that piece, because then you're just probably going to think, well, you're just going to destroy this too. Like, that's what you do.
Wow. Dude, hold on. Let's just process that for a second. Wow. That is true. Wow, see, that's why the wisdom of God, he knows what he's doing, because that is absolutely the truth. Because for me, because that touched on a fear that I have of that very thing. Remember, I was dealing with that all the time. It's just like, well, we're going to get into this home and God is going to tell us to give it away or something. You know,
or it's like,
we didn't do anything to earn it, so it's going to be his, and he's just going to say, all right, now I want you to give it to this person, and be like, oh man. You know what I'm saying?
But you would do it, of course.
I would, but the Lord's like, I don't even want you thinking like that. You know, I mean, yes, you're willing, and you don't have to prove yourself to me, but it's just like, no, I am not going to do that. And him saying that, I don't know if I believe that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you don't go through the proper process, now I don't think that way. But that took a while to go through that. You know, and just, man, that's heavy. That's profound. I really could just chew on that for days. I probably will. So anyway,
that's funny. And I think that's really the difference between the mindset of slavery versus the mindset of sons. You know, sons, they inherit, and it says they remain in the house, and so there is that sense of remaining that the Lord, you know, a slave wouldn't have that. It's like, well, this is just, if the master wants it,
that they're going to inherit anything.
they're not there to inherit anything. It's like, okay, well, they can take it away whenever, you know, the master.
They're there to work and stay alive.
Yeah. And it's like the Lord's like, no, I want sons. I want those that I can give inheritances to, things that will remain. You know, I think what the Lord is speaking to with the inheritance, there are spiritual inheritances that God is like, I want this to remain. There are legacies for families, like family lines. Like God is like Abraham, where he's like, I started with Abraham, but I'm talking generations, you know, and that kind of thing.
He wants the tree to be planted. He wants the branches to blossom, and he doesn't want them to be cut off or torn away. You know, but I also believe that there are lands, there are homes, there are businesses, there are things that the Lord wants to establish, that he's saying like, these are going to be generational inheritances. You know, these are not going to be like taken away. They're not going to be just, you know, like it's supposed to last. You know, and I think so. It's like God is talking about that as well when he's talking about sons inheriting. It's the spiritual inheritance, but there are also physical inheritances that God's like, no, I want these to remain as well. And so it's just like coming from that mindset of from slaves into sons, I think is so critical. And God's like, I know, that's why you have to allow his spirit to lead you, because he knows like, I'm going to take you through this wilderness time, but this wilderness time is actually should be a joyous and celebration time where you're going to see my heart and fall in love with me and see me for who I truly am. It's really the opposite of the kind of wilderness we've been through.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like really an end to the wilderness by celebrating, which is also an inauguration of a new journey that we're going into.
Yeah. You know? So I think that's all that we have for you guys today, and I do pray that...
that literally is a patented closing,
It really is.
You've really got it down.
I do.
So, you don't do the clap anymore, so...
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I used to, but, you know.
We gotta grow.
But I do pray that you guys are blessed by what we shared today, and I just pray that you are seeing just the fruit of the work of the Lord in your life. And so until next time, guys, we will see you later.
Hope you enjoyed the video.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.